highway stretched out like a black ribbon, swallowed by the thick, creeping fog that rolled across the asphalt. James Carter had been driving for hours, his body aching, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. The rhythmic hum of the engine was hypnotic, a lullaby that threatened to pull him into the abyss of sleep. He clenched the steering wheel tighter, forcing himself to stay alert. The road was empty to empty. Not a single car had passed in the last hour. No streetlights, no distant glow of headlights behind him. Just him, the road, and the endless fog. The radio crackled with static, refusing to find a station, as if the very air around him had swallowed all signals. He exhaled and glanced in the rearview mirror, and froze. A figure was sitting in the back seat. James's stomach twisted into knots. His breath hitched, his fingers numb against the wheel. He flicked on the overhead light. The seat was empty. His pulse hammered against his ribs. He let out a nervous chuckle, shaking his head. "I'm losing it," he muttered to himself. It was the exhaustion. The long hours on the road were playing tricks on him. That had to be it. Still, the air inside the car felt different now, thicker, heavier, like something unseen was watching him, waiting. As he rounded a bend, his headlights illuminated a solitary figure standing at the side of the road. A hitchhiker, tall, gaunt, dressed in a long coat, his face obscured by the brim of a wide hat. James's foot hovered over the brake, but something in his gut screamed, "Don't stop." He pressed the gas. The figure blurred past his window. Then a soft whisper coiled through the cabin. "You should have stopped it." James jerked the wheel, his heart slamming against his ribs. His eyes darted to the rearview mirror. The hitchhiker was sitting in the back seat. James swerved onto the shoulder, breathing hard. He threw open the door, stumbled out into the night air, gasping. The car was empty, but something was wrong. The air was deathly still. The fog had thickened, curling around the vehicle like spectral fingers. The world beyond the car had vanished, swallowed by an unnatural void. No trees, no road, nothing, just endless blackness. Then, the door behind him clicked open. James turned, his breath caught in his throat. The passenger door was wide open, revealing the dark interior of the car. The smell of decay seeped into his nostrils, rotting, ancient, foul. A voice, hollow and inhuman, whispered from within, "Get in." James took a step back. No way. A shadow shifted inside. A figure unfolded from the darkness, its elongated limbs moving in an unnatural, jerking motion. It was tall, too tall. Its face was a void, just a gaping, endless smile stretching across the darkness of its form. Then it lunged. James ran. The blackness around him swallowed everything. His feet pounded against something solid, but there was no road beneath him, just emptiness. The fog thickened, suffocating him. Laughter low, guttural, inhuman echoed all around. Then silence. James stopped. His breath was ragged. He turned, slowly. The car was behind him again. The door was still open. The passenger seat was waiting. A hand gripped his shoulder ice cold, bony fingers pressing into his skin. A voice whispered in his ear, its breath reeking of grave soil, "You can't run forever." James staggered forward. He could feel it inside his mind now, slithering through his thoughts. The darkness seeped into his skin, whispering, gnawing, claiming him. The road no longer existed. There was only the car, and the thing waiting inside it. With shaking hands, he stepped toward the open door. The shadows welcomed him. As he slid into the driver's seat, the door slammed shut on its own. In the rearview mirror, the hitchhiker smiled. James opened his mouth to scream, but only silence remained. And the road stretched endlessly into the dark. The car moved on its own now. James's hands were on the wheel, but he wasn't steering. The headlights pierced through the void, revealing nothing but endless blackness. He could hear breathing behind him, slow, measured, waiting. "Where are we going?" James whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. The figure in the back seat chuckled. The sound was ancient, empty. "Home." James's knuckles turned white against the wheel. The air grew colder, the temperature plummeting. Frost spread across the windshield, warping the glass like icy veins. Then the dashboard clock stopped. Everything stopped. The engine died. The headlights flickered out. Darkness swallowed the world whole. James felt something move beside him. The passenger seat wasn't empty anymore. The last thing he saw was a pair of glowing eyes, and then nothing.